Thank you very much for your very warm welcome, not just to me, but to other people from Burma. You have welcomed them as though they were one of your own. I was struck by the fact that there are 8.4 million New Yorkers. It made me remember 1984. But this is, of course, the very reverse of 1984. But it'll make it easy for me to remember how many New Yorkers there are. I have always felt very close to New York because, of course, I lived in Manhattan for more than 3 years. And I loved the city at a time when people thought it was terrible. I particularly loved it at weekends when it was almost empty and I could wander around the streets. One of the main reasons why I loved New York was because it's built like a grid and I have no sense of direction whatsoever. It's the only big city in the world where I've never got lost. And for that I have a special soft spot for New York and for New Yorkers as well. New York was the first place I came to in the United States, way back in 1968. And when I came to New York, in those days, I think it may surprise some of the younger people, that skyscrapers were only still to be found in New York. And when I got here, I thought, oh, it looks just like the postcards. Somehow, I never really believed that it would be quite like that. I remembered New York on one day, which would surprise you, the day when I was taken to insane prison. The reason why I remember New York was this. I was taken into the little bungalow where I was to be kept. It was a five-star residence by Burmese prison standards. And then they opened the door, I walked in, and after they had gone through the preliminaries, the warders went out and they shut the door. It was an iron door and there was this clang. And then there were all these bars on the windows. And I suddenly thought, this is prison. It's just like in the books. It's just the way they write about it. And I remembered my first visit to New York when I was surprised, and yet surprised because I knew it was supposed to be like that, but I'd never experienced it. And I was surprised by the fact that New York was a city of skyscrapers. When I found that prison was really a place where iron doors clanged shut and there were iron bars on the windows, I was surprised. So it really is like this. But I must say it was much better for me than for other people. So the reason why I remembered New York was not because I felt New York was like a prison, but I was interested in the fact that you can be surprised when you find out that things really do happen the way you have learned they happen, or things really are the way you have been told they are. And so I hope you will all understand what it is like to struggle for human rights and democracy in Burma. It is just the way you've heard about it. It may seem to you not quite real until you meet it face to face, and then you know what it is really like to struggle for democracy and freedom. Many young Americans take it for granted because they've had it all their lives, their parents have had it all their lives. It goes back to the 18th century. Well, not exactly in this form, but anyway, it started evolving in the 18th century. So you take it for granted. I always say to my friends who live in democratic countries, don't take it for granted. When I was back in Oxford as a student, I was always worried when my English friends didn't bother to go to vote. It seemed to me such a waste of an opportunity. Also, a lack of respect for a right that you should guard with your very life. And I would say to them, you must vote. You must use your democratic rights, otherwise they will fade away. You have to keep them alive by practicing all the time your duties as a citizen. And this is what I would like to say to the young people of Queens and to the Burmese community here. You are in a country where you can exercise your democratic rights. You must exercise them with a strong sense of your duty. Duty, I think, is considered a very boring word by some young people, but actually it is not. Duty is very stimulating. If you really think about what your duty is, and if you try to live up to it, it will prepare you for very many challenges in life. I've always thought that if my mother had not taught me a strong sense of duty, I might not have been able to meet the challenges I had to face. And challenges are exciting. Young people should know that. And the greatest challenges are the ones where you have to struggle with yourself, with your own selfish desire just to look after your own interests. That's in every one of us. It's perfectly natural. It's nothing to be ashamed of, but on the other hand, it's not something that you should indulge. Our world is a global world. Young people here cannot be and should not be ignorant of what young people elsewhere have to undergo. The privileges that you have in this country are such that young people in my country cannot even dream of. Their minds can barely encompass what it means to have all the rights and privileges that you take for granted here. Because I'm speaking to an educational institution, I would like you to know how very ill-educated our young people are in Burma. We have had 50 years of military rule, and during this 50 years, our education system has tottered. I was about to say collapse, but I thought perhaps I would be a little bit more moderate. But it has tottered badly. At one time, Burma was the country with the best education system in Southeast Asia. Our standards were very high, respected the world over. But during these years of authoritarian rule, the standards were gradually eroded. And now, our young people, the great majority of them, are barely educated. 15% of our children do not go to school at all, and those who finish high school are less than 20% of those who do start school. And what they learn up to high school is not adequate to provide them with the means to earn a decent living. So our problem in Burma now is unemployed youth, and youth who need to be trained to be employed. Education is the foundation of human dignity. We are all born free, and we all have a right to our human dignity. But we have to know how to uphold it. We have to have the means that enable us to uphold it. And education is the key. Unless you know what your potential can be, you will never know how to realize it. So we have to make our young people understand that it is through no fault of their own that they are ill-prepared for the world into which they have been born. But we can't just say, yes, it's not your fault. We also have to say to them, and now you must struggle to get over the obstacles that have been in your way for so many years. We are beginning to clear away these obstacles, and you must also do your part. As we progress towards democracy, because we're not there yet, and I don't think I will repeat this, that while we have started out on the path of democratization, we are not yet anywhere near our goal of a truly democratic society which will respect the rights of our people and give them the opportunity to discharge their duties in the right kind of environment. As we progress towards democracy, we need our young people with us. Our young people are our present and our future. If we are to make sure that our present is on the right track and our future is secure. We must make sure that we prepare our young people to conserve this present and work for the future. In this, I would like to appeal to you, who have been our good friends for many, many years, who have stayed by us throughout our years of struggle, to keep with us and to help us to help our young people, that they might take over the responsibilities of nation building. I belong to the old generation, and as soon as possible, we must start giving our young people their rightful place in society. But they have to be prepared to take that place. And I would like you to help us to prepare them. Not in the conventional way. That is not possible. What I'm saying is that formal education is not enough. We need non-formal education and vocational training to help those young people who have been through school but still remain barely educated. Another problem now is that we have young people who are well educated in our country. These are the privileged ones. A very, very small number in them, and the majority of ordinary young people with access just simply to the ordinary government schools is so great. It's going to store up problems for the future if we don't try to narrow this gap. And so my appeal to not just Queens, but to all educational institutions in the United States and the rest of the free world is to help Burma to improve its education system, to give our young people a chance to be what they have the potential to be. Thinking about young people, I have to say that when Congressman Crawley came bounding up my steps, I thought, here's a well-brought-up young man who understands the needs of others. Young people are born generous. I think human beings are born generous, but sometimes we have that generosity squeezed out of us by the circumstances in which we have to grow up. So I would like to say to young people, don't let go of your generosity. Look at Joe Crawley, how large he is. His heart is big. Well, he's big in every way. And he has been helping us for so long with such dedication that I never felt he was a stranger. Not just Representative Crawley, but other members of the United States Congress who have been so kind to us, so caring, simply because they believed in the right of all peoples to the privileges of human rights and democracy. So I'm here today to thank all of you, what you have been to us, and to ask all of you to stay with us until we have completed the journey to democracy. And we get to the point when we too can help others who are in need, that Burma can once again become the country it was way back before the military regime took over, when we were a country of hope in our part of the world. We want to become that kind of country again, a country of hope, a country that proves that there can be such things as happy endings. And when that happy ending arrives, I hope I'll be able to welcome all of you to Burma. Thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jonathan Dorga. I'm from Astoria, Queens. And my question, during your detention under house arrest, were you still able to carry out political activities? If so, what were they and how?
Well, the activities that I carried out during my years of house arrest was the ones that I set for myself. I hope you will never be placed under house arrest, but I can tell you that one of the first things you must do once you're put under house arrest is to set yourself a very disciplined timetable. Otherwise, I think you'll find that you fritter away your time and you become undisciplined, and perhaps that way you will be less able to cope with the situation. So from day one, I set a very strict timetable for myself. I would get up at a certain hour in the morning, meditate for an hour, and then I would listen to the news on the radio, and then I would have a bath, and then, oh wait a minute, I had exercises in between, and then I had a bath, and so on and so forth. And I had reading material. I was far more fortunate than those who were in prison. I had books, and I had access to shortwave radio. So everything I did according to the strict timetable, except at weekends, because I think you do need a time for relaxation. And weekends was a time when I didn't have to follow the strict timetable, and I really looked forward to it. And back to the grind on Monday. And so this was the way I made my life under house arrest as normal as possible, just like going to work in real life.
Thank you.
Yes, well, when the people rose up in 1988 to protest against the military government, I felt then that it was the duty of every citizen to join in, because I believed, as the majority of our people did, that the years of military rule had destroyed our country in many ways, and we needed to go back to a democratic system. And if you believe in something, you have to be prepared to work for it. It's no use saying, yes, I think it's right that there should be change, but just sit there and do nothing. So that is why I entered the politics at that time. And also I have to admit it was something to do with my father, because I felt that Burma had not become the kind of country he had meant it to be when he fought for its independence. And I felt that I had a duty to continue to do whatever I could to make Burma the kind of country we had dreamed of before independence. And once I'd started, I've been asked by very many people how I kept going, and the simple answer is I just didn't know how to stop. You start out on a path like that, you keep going. First, because you do not want to abandon your principles, and secondly, and almost as important, because you do not want to abandon your comrades, your colleagues, and so you keep going, and it's worth it, I can tell you. There has been change. There has not yet been all the change necessary to make sure that we are going to be a genuinely democratic society. But there have been changes. I'm here, I'm in Parliament, and as Representative Crawley whispered to me just now, I can go back home as well. And that also is a difference. So there have been changes. The media is much more free. We used not to have 2 years ago, there were just the 2 state-owned newspapers and a few journals and magazines which were strictly censored. And now there's so many journals and magazines, news journals. And I'll tell you another change. Apparently, the news about my receiving the Congressional Gold Medal was in the state newspapers.
Reform and also, the dangers and consequences regarding the reform movement.
What role did my father play?
Yes.
Well, my father died when I was 2 years old. So to tell the truth, I don't really remember him. But he has been a tremendous influence on my life. First of all, because I was always told that I was his favorite child. Now, that matters, and let me say this to parents. Well, not just parents, everybody. I think anybody who feels that he or she has been truly loved by one person, just one, it does not have to be more than one, this will give him or her tremendous confidence in life. And I had this tremendous confidence that came of the knowledge that my father loved me. This is what my mother and family and friends told me, how much he loved me. Of course, I was by far the sweetest of his children. That is on record. That is what he said. He said. And so, because of this, I felt very close to him, and I studied his life. As soon as I was old enough to read, I read everything about him that I could lay my hands on. I read his speeches, and I understood his thoughts and his politics since I was quite young. So he has had tremendous influence on me, and I think he would have approved of what I'm doing now, especially the reform and reconciliation, because although he was a founder of the Burmese army, he was not really a man of violence, not really a man who preferred confrontation to reconciliation. No, he was at heart a man of quiet and deep sincerity and tremendous warmth.
Thank you very much.
join me? You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Beautiful. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you got to do is call, and I'll be there. Yes, I will. You've got a friend, Dorset, you've got a friend.
As my 7-year-old somebody would say, that was awesome. Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Dr. Meistens. Thank you, Angelica Houston. Thank you, Chris Quinn, John Liu. Most especially, thank you, Donaldson Suchi. Thank you to the ponies.